embark on a journey with you, a conceptual one, but also a practical one.
Sure.
First, I propose to think through with the audience the kinds of qualities, capacities, and skills that we all aspire to in our graduates, and their consistent expectations and aspirations across our countries, I think. Next, I would like to think with you about how those of us at universities can play a role in creating and nurturing such qualities, capacities, and skills, and what changes we might need to make in order to reach that point. If one goes back a few years, and I am older than some of you present, the expectations within the university sector were quite modest. We hoped to deliver well-informed lectures, and by doing so to stimulate the growth of students intellectually, and to supply them with information in a range of areas so that they could emerge from the academy knowledgeable and in a position to consolidate their knowledge and in turn distribute it to others. We hoped to leave students able to enter the vocational world with a theoretical underpinning as well, so that they could apply principles to real world situations. Part of what we endeavoured to do was to assist our students and in due course our graduates to engage in critical thinking, because we've always recognised that the work environment requires crossovers between different areas, which in turn need lectures which enable students to be able to engage with a range of different kinds of situations with which they will be presented upon entering the workforce. So let me suggest some qualities which we might want to play a role in fostering in our graduates. And then I'll pass to how we might bring those qualities out in our students. First of all, we do want them to be able to think creatively and critically. We want our students to be able to move across different areas so as not to be siloed, because the real world does not have doctrinal barriers or categories. It's simply problems that need to be solved, issues that need to be grappled with. So our graduates need to be able to question, to analyze, and to critique. We don't want them to accept everything that they hear. And sometimes we want them to come up with lateral ideas, to challenge orthodoxy and convention. Our world is changing. That's all too obvious. When I was a student at university, a remarkable book by a man called Alvin Toffler was published. All of you are too young to remember this, but it was a fascinating book that looked at the nature of change, and it postulated that the rate of change in our world was faster than had ever been the case previously. Now, in the years between the publication of this book and today, that has become even more pronounced. We need graduates who can provide value promptly upon being employed, but we need them to have a variety of skills which they can deploy within the workforce. We need them to be flexible, adaptable, creative. They need to be able to relate to their clients and their work colleagues, to integrate into a workplace in a constructive and collaborative way. But it is a complex workplace that our students enter today. Another quality that they must be able to exercise is the ability to, I beg your pardon, to communicate effectively. Now, some of us might call that interfacing, picking up computer sorts of language, but whatever they do, they need to be able to articulate their ideas and their analyses to others in a way which is comprehensible, not paternalistic or condescending, because such arrogance is not tolerated in the modern world in any context. Our graduates are special, to be sure, but no one likes grandiosity or self-importance. I will say a little bit more about these kinds of qualities that are personal to our graduates. It used to be said of graduates from Harvard and Yale and Oxford and Cambridge that there was a superiority about them because they had attended the very best universities in the world, and too many of them knew it and thought that they were a gift to the outside world. That is not acceptable in England or the United States or in our countries either these days. Rather, what we need are graduates with with humility and a capacity to be self-reflective. And whatever kind of work they do in the many sectors at your university, the capacity for empathy is fundamental. That fellow feeling with others, to be able to understand and experience and appreciate and live with the travails that people experience. Now, if people are able to be empathic and self-aware, that mitigates the risk of people working beyond their competence. A longitudinal historical perspective is enormously valuable, especially with the Indian culture that is so rich and provides so many perspectives that are relevant from the past for the present. A person who is not historically aware or culturally attuned runs the risk of being unable to empathize and to identify with those whom they will need to interact with in the workplace. But it is important to, whatever our job, to be able to engage in self-criticism and analysis, because that kind of ability constitutes a bulwark against arrogance and complacency and the kind of self-congratulatory behavior that we see all too often in those who say that they are leaders. So to say a little bit more about self-awareness, Aristotle talked about knowing oneself, gnoske seauton. Understanding one's limitations, what one doesn't know, is so important, and it's valuable in a practical sense in the workplace. Having employees who say, yes, I can do that, can be highly problematic because they may not be able to do that. Knowing where the parameters of one's competence are is very valuable because it mitigates the risk of error and it reduces the risk of creating unrealistic or inflated expectations for clients, customers, patients. Such unrealistic expectations can be highly problematic when disappointed in a business sense and devastating in a personal sense if the promises are not fulfilled and the person ends up disappointed. That can have a very real commercial outcome that is disadvantageous. It seems to me too that we want our graduates to be knowledge seeking. As you can see, Einstein maintained that he was neither clever nor especially gifted, just very, very curious. And intellectual curiosity is a fine quality. And we hear much about life being a long-term journey of intellectual exploration. But it's in some ways more than that. It's a quest for lifelong growth and regeneration. It wards off dementia, the researchers tell us these days. But it also means that people are not mired in yesterday. We do not want our students to be stuck in the 1980s, or for that matter, in the 2020s. We want them to be changing and evolving and growing so that they can perform their functions in a lively and community-leading way. We also want our students to be able to solve problems. My world is substantially the law. And during my career, clients have come to see me from all manner of backgrounds. The poor, the leaders in commerce and industry and government, persons in crisis, persons facing a life in jail, persons at risk of losing all of their assets, persons whose marriages and personal lives are falling apart. All of them have problems and they need solutions. But one of the things that I have come to appreciate more and more with the passage of time is that those problems are often complex and multifaceted. They have a legal component, to be sure, but often there is more than that. There are other factors which have led them into their travails. Often they're relational, bad decision-making, often. Sometimes they're personal, sometimes familial, sometimes financial, sometimes in their businesses, sometimes they're environmental issues. But often it's a complex pastiche of those different factors which have led to a breakdown in some significant aspect of their life. And they present to me as a lawyer asking for help. And that requires a range of skills, capacity to listen carefully, to empathize, and then to engage in a process of endeavoring with them to solve their problem, or more particularly, their problems. And those problems do not fit within one category of criminal law or tort or contract or commercial law. Generally, it's much more complex than that. Always they have financial ramifications. Always they have personal ramifications. Because if one imagines that a person has a very serious business issue because their partner has defrauded them, now that may be devastating reputationally. There may be, in principle, remedies as a matter of law, but the repercussions of what has occurred stretch to their family and their friends. Shame, embarrassment, reduced circumstances, problems in their career, inability to pay their tax, creditors knocking on their door. All of those various difficulties need to be factored creatively into the search for ways of alleviating the pressures and solving the life problems, which actually bring the client to me. The law is the easy part often. The harder parts are the more complex interpersonal issues. To give another example, I've just spent quite a bit of my last 2 years in a part of Australia that you would have no reason to know very much about. It's the Northern Territory. It's a kind of frontier part of Australia. About 35% of the population is Indigenous. It's extremely poor. It's often spoken of as Australia's gateway to Asia because it is only literally a few kilometers from Indonesia and from Papua New Guinea. It is impoverished in many ways. There are terrible alcohol abuse issues. The health of many of the citizens is dreadful. Education levels are poor. The future is bleak indeed. And people live in dreadful circumstances, often in small towns on the edge of the desert. I've been there for inquests focusing upon particular kinds of deaths at the hands of police and also domestic violence homicides. But one of the things that has emerged and which has given rise to civil litigation has arisen from the quality of accommodation provided. There are very poor levels of employment. And interestingly, when you have impoverished accommodation, and I know this is the case in some parts of India as well, that has a whole range of ramifications. It can be a breeding ground for malcontent, alienation, and crime. Substance abuse can proliferate. Mental health problems can be very significant. There can be confused interpersonal boundaries, and that can raise the risks of domestic violence and child abuse. Education can become limited because there is nowhere for children to study, and there may not be a recognition of the utility in study. There can be health outcomes too, dysentery, rheumatic fever, and you can think of many others. And there can be legal issues too. There might be breaches of legal and environmental obligations of government. There may be multiple human rights that are not being respected and attended to. So I mentioned this issue of accommodation because it raises so many proliferating and important other issues in people's lives. If accommodation can be enhanced, to be sure, that can have consequences for so many other areas as well. The law can be a lever for that, but it requires brave, courageous, and altruistic efforts on behalf of lawyers to endeavour to improve those underpinnings of health, education, and violence. So moving to our graduates, who we would hope perhaps could play a role in addressing some of those societal issues. We probably would aspire to their having emotional intelligence as well as orthodox intelligence. They have to be clever, otherwise they wouldn't be attending your university. But as I've said, problems that they will be required to solve are not one-dimensional. Technical solutions, such as the correct legal interpretation of a statute, are only part of the answer. There's got to be more, hasn't there, in terms of really engaging and wrestling with those matters with which clients present, if one is to improve the circumstances of persons in difficult situations. And for that, intuition and empathy are so important. I've used that empathy word a few times, I know, and forgive me for being repetitive. But it is perhaps one of the qualities that is going to become more important in our emerging world. Now, I don't want to talk to you about the Terminator or Blade Runner or other films that you may have seen. We are not at war with machines, but we in the Academy really do need to reflect on what human beings can do that artificial intelligence cannot. Today, and India is the world leader in this area, by the month, artificial intelligence can do more and more. That means that we need to think about what we can do that the machines cannot. Machines do not have emotional intelligence, and they can be programmed to have some simulacrum of it, but they will never be human. So perhaps it follows, and I would be interested to hear what you think, that we need to work on maximizing what it is that makes us human. We are not as clever as the machines. We don't have the knowledge that artificial intelligence has. We cannot engage with data as well as artificial intelligence can. Machines can be quite clever and creative, but we can do things laterally that they cannot at this stage. One of the great challenges for us, and it's an urgent challenge, as persons at universities who are expected to be thought leaders, is to reflect upon what we can do to remain relevant in this era of extraordinary development by artificial intelligence. Well, going back to more pedestrian issues and the qualities that we want in our graduates after they've spent their 3, 4, 6 years with us, we certainly want dedication and industry, don't we, in our students? We want them to be prepared to sacrifice, commit, meet targets. That's what industry expects. It's what government expects these days. So that we want them to be dedicated, focused, prepared to work hard. Perhaps we want them to work harder than those with whom they will be competing. Because just as they need to compete in our universities, they're going to really need to compete once they leave our universities for the outside world. They need to compete. They need to be prepared to work hard hours and long hours. And they need to be accountable. They need to be robust to deal with criticism. Sometimes fair, sometimes not so fair. I've referred to artificial intelligence already. It's fundamental to what we're doing. When I entered the workforce, there were early versions of computers. Typewriters were leaving our world. But now artificial intelligence is the revolution. We've had the revolution of the internet, but artificial intelligence is the next phase. And every one of our students must be competent with current and emerging technologies. They must be able to adapt to them and to harness them for their work. Can they be better researchers than artificial intelligence? Well, in some respects, yes. Will they have more knowledge? No. But here is the important word: discernment. Rather than an algorithm, there is every reason to hope that they will have a capacity to apply, reflect, manipulate, and utilize technology. So technology and artificial intelligence have to underpin all of our teaching, all of our courses, because that is the future of our world, whether we like it or whether we do not. We want our graduates too to be ambitious. That's not a bad word. We want them to leave our institution ready to take on the world and to show how valuable their alma mater of our university is. They need to be entrepreneurial. They need to work in a competitive business world. Taxation and commercial realities are fundamental to interactions and obligations as members of a professional community. We want our graduates to be able to seize opportunities, to identify them and to seize them because they want to and they want to contribute and to strive for excellence, both at our university and afterwards. And it's no good having our graduates focused on the state or even their country. The information age has meant an end, really, to parochialism and localism. Those are outdated terms and notions. We would want our students and our graduates, I think, to be outward looking and internationalist, drawing upon knowledge and approaches, perspectives, insights from other countries, because they can be applied in medicine, in science, in law, in the arts, in hospitality, in tourism, in so many different areas. Every one of our faculties needs to be global and internationalist in its focus. And I hope you agree with me, but I would certainly aspire to our graduates having an ethical compass. Professionals, and we are producing professionals in one area or another, have a range of privileges, and that translates not just to their income of their education as tertiary graduates, but also better income than many others in the community. And with these privileges come obligations, it seems to me, to contribute. We've often spoken of altruism being a hallmark of being a professional. There being an obligation to give back, to contribute to the community, to enhance the quality of life of others less fortunate. So I would aspire to our graduates acting with integrity, compassion, and care for those to whom they provide service, to be respectful of others in the community, to be culturally aware, to be inclusive, to have as one of their aspirations to improve the quality of life of others, not just to make money, not just to optimize the profits for the corporation that may employ them, but to do something meaningful and worthwhile. Those are values that I would very much like to see inculcated into our students. But they also need to survive in the world of their vocation. And that's challenging. It's stressful to undertake work in so many different contexts. We see it in our own lives, we experience it, and they will too. And I don't think stress is reducing in our world. I think it's escalating. I would hope that our students can manage that stress and prioritize tasks, perhaps to switch off. In some parts of Australia, we have passed legislation allowing people to be uncommunicable with their employers so that they have a respite, so that they're not online all day and night. I'm not very good at that. I'm available for probably 16 hours a day, but I'm not sure that that's a good thing. We need to be able to juggle multiple commitments, and they need to too. And one would hope that they can retain their relationships, first form them, and then retain them, and some sense of perspective over their lives. So that work is not everything, because it isn't. There are things perhaps more important than work. So these overheads are endeavoring to suggest that the juggle of work and life is complex. And my observation is that the students coming through our universities now are more alert to other priorities and are quite assertive in terms of their entitlements to do other than perform at a high level in their chosen area. And if that's so, probably it's a good thing. So let me pass to the last stages of my talk with you. If some of those qualities in our graduates resonate with you, what do we do about it? How do we generate? How do we nurture? How do we facilitate those kinds of qualities? Well, we can make sure that people learn plenty, that they acquire knowledge. That's not so hard. We can facilitate critical thinking by fashioning our lectures, our exams, our materials to enhance their ability to think critically about that which they are presented with. We have to work with industry so that people are work ready. They don't just have theoretical knowledge, but they have some skills which can be enhanced in the workplace. We can assist them with their communication skills, again, in terms of the expectations we set and the way we examine them. We can stamp on unpleasant behaviors of arrogance, condescension, and superiority. We can encourage humility by emphasizing that that is an admirable human quality. I would hope that we can assist people to think deeply about themselves and others. We can encourage them to have a problem-solving mindset so that they're not stuck in particular limited areas, but instead can recognize the breadth of problems and the kinds of interventions necessary to address those in a sophisticated way. I would hope that by the way in which we teach, the areas that we discuss, the persons whom we draw to their attention as success stories, we can encourage a commercial awareness and entrepreneurialism. Certainly fundamental to what we do must be enhancing technological awareness and competence. It seems to me that we must not unduly focus on knowledge and institutions which are Indian or Australian or American or English, but we must encourage people to look outside, to use the wonderful resources that are so readily available on the internet, so that they have a global and international focus in what they do. And it seems to me that by incorporating in almost all of our courses an ethical component, that we can encourage our students and therefore our graduates to have an ethical appreciation of the ramifications of what they do and the options that exist. So that's all part of what we can do within the tertiary environment. Put another way, we can combine pedagogy, ethics, and praxis. Impractical boffins were once individuals who often resided in the ivory towers of our universities. But such boffins and doctrinaire intellectuals were always somewhat shunned by the real world, and they're not valued these days. Technologically incompetent pedagogues risk being consigned to a dustbin of irrelevance. We have to stay aware and competent in relation to developing technology. It's hard, but we must model these things for our students, or we ourselves will become irrelevant and will cease to command respect from our students. Communication skills, though, stay vital. But there are more ways of communicating these days, not just from the rostrum at a university, but in all sorts of ways. Podcasts, blogs, talks on the internet from one country to another, social media. There are so many ways now that we can communicate effectively and creatively. In a world where borders are porous, where in Russia and China it is impossible to stop citizens knowing what is happening in other parts of the world, it is appropriate that all the time we'd be focusing our students' minds on what is happening elsewhere and on the insights of brilliant minds, whatever country they come from. And our students need to be more useful than artificial intelligence. This complex relationship that we are going to be forging with machines needs to be the topic of ongoing evaluation and re-evaluation. And it seems to me that underlying so much of this is a moral compass, a value system, which we need to inculcate in our students so that when they leave us, we can be proud of what they do, that they will contribute altruistically to our world and bring credit to our university. So how can we do these things? How can we inspire them? How can we engender this complex set of aspirational qualities? Well, I think firstly, what we can do is to model a number of them, because we are people who, for better, good or ill, are looked up to by our students. So we must model the qualities that we seek to bring out in them. And what we do is extraordinary. It's very special. We should enjoy our potential to inspire and influence brilliant minds that are developing. They're in the early stages, and there is so much that they can contribute. We should love what we're doing in our role. And if we don't, we should leave and do something else. Sorry to be confronting, but if people are stale, if they're going through the motions, if they're repeating the same lectures year after year, it's time for them to go. They need to be dynamic and inspirational. Our students deserve that. We need to look outward. We need to use our international experiences. We need to travel. If we can't do it physically, we need to do it on the internet. We need to harness technology. We need to incorporate a hard practical edge in our lectures with real world experience, stories and experiences. These are powerful. In my own world of the law, many lecturers at universities have never left the academy. And I think that's unfortunate. Those of us who straddle the practical world and the academy, I think largely inspire students more effectively. Students love hearing what happens in the courts. What happens when clients present with particular kinds of problems, where things are done well and things are done badly. That kind of explanation and retailing of stories and experiences brings what we do to life, and it inspires them and interests them. We should work across disciplines to engage with problems because, as I've contended to you, things don't sit within specific doctrinal boxes. Problems are more complex than that. And we can model to them being self-critical, humble, but hardworking, not engaging with social media endlessly to promote ourselves, but utilizing it constructively. Showing what a modern person with knowledge and influence can do in ways that they may wish to emulate. These are all things within our power that I think can assist and facilitate our students becoming graduates who have the ability to contribute to our community in exciting ways. We need to be accessible to our students, but not too available. We've got to keep proper boundaries with them. Otherwise, difficulties can occur, of course. We need to retain our personal privacy, and we need to have breaks and downtime too. Otherwise, we will burn out. And doing that is a good thing, because having those lines is a good modeling. There are persons in the law whom I have encountered who blur their lines with their clients. And that can result in unethical behaviors in a variety of ways. And by clarifying that there are lines which are constructed for good, ethical, and practical reasons, that models to our students that that is an approach which they would do well to emulate. It is constructive for us to utilize opportunities that come our way to work in the outside world, to sit on boards, committees, tribunals, apply for patents, volunteer in different capacities. All of those things makes us better rounded and enables us again to once more communicate to our students the broad approaches that can make them more fulfilled persons and better employees. By broadening and challenging ourselves with our teaching and our research in new areas, again, we recreate and refresh ourselves. And we need to energize our work and perspectives by meaningful interaction with persons overseas and those in industry and other contexts. And let me deliberately finish with this proposition. As part of our modeling desirable qualities which might be worthy of emulation by our students, we must not be consumed by what we do. To be sure, we should work hard. To be sure, we should be committed and energetic. But our health and our families are the most important things, or should be, in our lives. That's something which Indian culture teaches us. And it is important, I think, that that not be eroded and that we reinforce those values and those priorities in our students because they're worthy of perpetuating. And it's very important that our graduates, when they leave us, make good decisions about that work-life balance, which we all wrestle with and which we hope that they may perhaps do better in than we have. Those are some thoughts. I hope that provides you with some ideas to engage with and wrestle with in terms of how we might conduct ourselves within the academy so as to optimize the kinds of graduates which ultimately we play a role in generating. It's been very kind of you to spend time with me. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you.
Thank you, sir, for enlightening us in such a contemporary topic in a very simple way. Thank you, Professor.
My pleasure.
Honorable Sir, we are very much thank you. And some of the questions have the speakers have also. Is there anyone to ask any kind of the questions so that our respected resource person can? Sir, one of the question of one of the attendees has asked that the essence of pedagogy to ensure the students' connections, the academics in industry or community. What is your take on multiple methodology for the ideal pedagogy approaches?
Certainly, we need to enable our students and to enter the workforce with practical skills. But in many respects, they will acquire most of their skills in the workplace. What I think we can do is to broaden their perspectives, to inculcate them with good values, to assist them with methodologies and approaches, to imbue them with a critical capacity to think about themselves and problems. And in those ways, they are going to be able to make contributions in almost every kind of workplace.
Very nice, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question. One of the attendees, she is in Vidya and who has asked, she's taking the education from University of Reading, sir. She has asked that how can digital tool just like AI be better than integrated with the higher education to enhance the professionalized learning without losing the human curiosity pedagogy? Because you have already said that there is a between the competition between the human and technology.
It's such a good question, so I'm glad it was posed. I think this is one of our great challenges. We are preoccupied with trying to stop cheating and inappropriate usage of resources that can be located on the internet and from artificial intelligence. But what we need to work on is identifying, I think, what it is that makes us human and different from machines. It's hard to say, but the truth is that machines are better than we are at some things. And that is going to become more and more apparent to us. They're faster. They have more knowledge. They have better access to data. They can calculate faster and more accurately. They can summarize things better than we can. There are all manner of skills that machines have that are superior to ours. And I think the wonderful thing about making these confronting concessions is that it propels us to think about who we are, what makes us human. What are those qualities which are really valuable, which cannot be replicated by artificial intelligence or by machines? And we must optimize those and work with them. If we don't, we will become irrelevant. So the laboratory of the university is the best place to undertake these complex analyses about what it is to be human and what it is that we need to nurture and optimize in this new world that is exploding around us. And I think it's important to see it as an opportunity rather than as something oppressive or frightening. This isn't Blade Runner. It isn't the Terminator, but we have to get this right.
Yes, yes, yes. Very nice, sir. Sir, even our moderator who is moderating this event, Garima, she also want to ask one question, and I am asking from her side.
Thank you.
She want to know that what role student universities play in preparing the students for jobs
Yes.
that do not yet in the give the because today employment is very much. Yes, sir.
Yes, well, it's a very competitive marketplace for graduates, is it not? And it's only going to become more complex. There are so many graduates who are clever and with all manner of skills from one institution or another. I think in many respects, what we can do to prepare our students to become job ready is to arm them with skills and values which are particular to our university and our disciplines, which are deeper and more sophisticated than our rivals at other universities, where the courses are more integrated, where they have an ethical basis, where the students are encouraged to be analytical, to be critical, to be evaluative, because they can pick up knowledge elsewhere. They can use technology for that. They can go into a workplace and find out exactly how the various implements work and the and what people want in a particular sector of industry. But what we can give to them is the capacity to do things creatively, ethically, and differently, optimizing and drawing upon the resources that happen to be there. If we can give them those skills and those values and those approaches, then we are giving them something very important, which in fact will enable them to compete effectively and integrate early into the workforce. And if we can do that for some of our graduates, the reputation of our university grows and our students will become more sought after.
Very nice, sir. Thank you, sir. And at the last, sir, with very, I'm feeling gratitude to you, sir. I am honored here to speak and give expressions of my sincere gratitude for making this event, online event, a very successful. This has been an enriching and enlightening experience for us all. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartiest thankful to the former Supreme Court Judge Dr. Ian Freckelton, who has displayed his valuable time from his busy schedule to grace us all this evening. Thank you, sir, very much for your pulse of wisdom, which increased to all of the students of not only our university, but even the alumni and the faculties which are in India and outside India also, sir. On record, this is my gratitude, and Mr. Chancellor and Vice Chancellor, they have also extended their thanks. Our Dean has also extended. The Principal Poonam Rawat, she has also been extended a very much thank you to you, sir. The topic which you discussed today are very much encouraging and motivating. The way you have said about that the graduates with emotional intelligence is showing arising from the human's intelligence without the author. The graduates who are dedicated and industrious regarding to the employment which you have emphasized on your lecture, sir. Graduate with humanity and self-reproductivity. That is also, sir, very much needed, which you have focused, and all the attendees have taken the benefit. Graduates who are technologically proficient and better than AI. That is the thing which you have focused, and I think because of that, of the one of this moderator Garima has raised one question for his clarifying the his anxiousness. Sir, and you have also focused at the graduates who are intellectual in their focus, because globalization is an investment in the today's infrastructure of the age and information age. Graduate with an ethical compass is also your focus, and that is also, I think, that is very important thing which you have focused, especially in higher education. And then, sir, which you have focused about the university pedagogical process. That is also, sir, very much enthusiastic and acknowledging the thing to ensure knowledge acquisition, to facilitate ethical thinking, to enhance humility, and to foster the self-awareness. Sir, we are highly thankful that you have not even left even a single corner which can be said. You have covered each and every aspect, sir, and this has made a very much not only encouraging but awareing as well as enhancing the knowledge of all the students and faculty. Thirdly, sir, you have focused about the combination pedagogy, ethical and practical, especially with the graduation need to be more useful than AI and human versus machine, which you have focused. That is also, sir, very much acknowledging. And one of the things that the whole of the global is that the student without a moral compass lack in value system. This is also one of the things that even the moral, that the education with which you have focused, that the lack of value system to the underlie their action with. So values are also very, and you have done this thing also. So I don't think that you have left any of the corner. Sir, very much thank you to you, sir. As you have earlier said that you came addressing the more than 400 people from other of the university, and this is the second one by one. The thing you are very highly scheduled, sir. We are very much impressed with your humbleness, sir, and the hard working. As this also reflected to each and every student of this university and the faculties also, sir. Regarding to this event, I am thankful to the training and recruitment division of Law College. So they have arranged each and everything. President of the training and recruitment division of Law College is one of the body which emphasizes all these kind of events. Vansita, she has also mailed you. President of this, Trustee Vice President, Jyoti, Secretary Placement, Garima, who has asked one of the question, and she is also the moderator. I am very much thankful to these students that they have worked day and night for the success of this event. And sir, these also need your blessings also, because the future goes for these only, and everything we are doing, you and we are for these students only, sir. Then I am thankful to the Poonam ma'am, who is the principal. She has also cooperated a lot with all those things. And my colleague, Amit Chaudhary, he is also the professor of sociology, and he has also doing well, and he has also been worked hard so that all the technical things can be moderated and the event can be successfully made. Then I am thankful to the technical staff of the university, Sanjay, and all the faculties of not only Law College, Uttaranchal University, so that, and at the last again, sir, thank you very much, thank you, sir, very much, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And one thing that I also acknowledge that we are here at 4:30, but in Australia it will be 8, 9, 9:30, 10 at 9. So, sir, the way you have given time, sir, very much thank you, sir. From the bottom of heart, we are very much thank you, sir.
My pleasure. It is a great pleasure to be associated with you and to be able to make a small contribution.
Yes, sir. Even our head of the department also, he is also very much motivated by the way that you have always motivated us, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, sir. Good night, sir.